Hey everybody, this is the first DM Tales stream. I'm really excited to do this. I've been setting it up for a couple of days, and the person who is our conversation partner tonight was gracious enough to deal with me trying to figure this all out last week. But I'm here with Steph C from TTRPG Kids, and this is her. Say hello.
Hi, how you
There you
doing?
go. We're doing really good. So Steph, um, you just have this cool blog that talks about playing RPGs with kids, tabletop RPGs with kids. Uh, but obviously, you've gotten into the hobby space somehow. We're going to talk a little bit about how you got into that and a little bit of your background. But how did you get into this bizarro hobby?
So, like getting into tabletop RPGs to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, the first time I got into tabletop RPGs, my husband's friend was running like a little mini campaign. It was maybe like, it wasn't a one shot, it was maybe like a three shot.
Okay.
um,
Okay.
and for their last one, and my husband was getting like super into it, talking about it and everything. And
Okay.
for the last one that they were running, they invited me to join in, and I had a blast. I loved it so much.
What were they
Um,
playing? Like what system?
it was D&D,
Okay.
and my character was basically Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn. I didn't intend it that way, but that was how they came out. So,
Okay, I'm old and don't know who that is.
um, the character from Horizon Zero Dawn is basically like, think of like a ranger artificer combo.
Okay, cool. That I can
So
understand.
yeah, yeah. Um, I loved it, but it was the end of their mini campaign, so it just ended,
Okay.
and life was going on and happened and everything. I kind of lost track of it for a while.
Okay.
Um, and then I had my kid, who, I don't know if you can hear him in the background, but he's having a hard time with nap or with going to bed tonight. So I I had my kid. I was, kind of having a hard time getting into my groove and stuff like that afterwards. And I was chatting with my brother, and he was like, there's this podcast called Critical Role that, like, it's, if you watch it, we can talk about it and stuff like that. And I was like,
Mhm.
okay, I try it out. Got hooked. We're all like, oh, we need to do a campaign. And we didn't know anyone who DM'd. So I was just like, oh, I'll just DM it. Ended up making this entire homebrew world,
Just
got super
famous
into it.
last words. I'll just do
Open.
it. It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So now I'm like in the DM seat for a bunch of campaigns, and it's good.
It's not a bad place to be.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Now,
fun.
but you like so role playing is not your whole life. What is your day job?
For my day job, I am an engineering professor. So I teach, it's a project based engineering course, and I actually use some of my RPG skills in the class,
Okay.
which is kind of fun. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's been fun kind of bridging between that.
Yeah, so what, like you've explained this beforehand, but just for a little bit, like talk to, because I have folks who work in the humanities over at Temple
Yeah.
and they're using RPG stuff all the time. But for engineering, this is a new concept. So like, what do you
Yeah.
do with them?
So it's a project based class. So our homework assignments are these projects where we make sure that we're going through the engineering design process with them. We do a research paper on it, and we'll go through and kind of like pick it apart from an engineering standpoint.
Okay.
So the way that I'm bringing the RPG elements into it is the first class, we make up what's called the class engineer. And this is a hypothetical engineer that represents everyone in the class. We do an icebreaker, figure out some things that everybody has in common, and
Mm-hmm.
create this character. And I've started like actually putting the classes as this class is session zero, this one is session one, and stuff like that. Um,
Has
and they
anybody
level up
picked up on that yet?
a
Like they picked
couple
up
of
on what you're
them.
doing? Okay.
Yeah, so there's a student in my class right now who's very into D&D, and
Okay.
we've talked about like some of the D&D news and stuff recently and before class has started.
What's going
So,
on? No, sorry. I won't
yeah.
go there. Go ahead.
um and so each of the assignments, I have a little like paragraph in the beginning that talks about how this assignment represents a potential real world situation, that this engineer will go through. So it's kind of like this assignment represents an internship that the engineer has. So we can show how it's applied, but then also we show the result of the internship, what they've learned, contacts
Okay.
that they've made. A future assignment maybe loops back and takes a contact from there to help them get a job out of college.
Okay.
Maybe a job doesn't work out and they've got to switch jobs. So it teaches them all these extra little bits and pieces that are beyond the technical content for dealing with failure, learning how to network, things like that that you normally wouldn't get in the class.
Okay. Now, so what I just heard,
Yeah.
because I started playing D&D back in like 1980, is that you literally have in all of your classes, you start with box text.
Yeah.
Is it in a box? Like literally, do you have it in a box?
Not in a box, but pretty close. It's
There's
kind of
like
there's just
it's
like a
modern design, right?
it's like just at the top of the page before we get into like the grading rubric and everything like that. It just has a little intro that kind of sets up the scene a bit.
I love
And
it.
yeah,
It's I mean, that's like so cool. It's like how do you start your engineering classes? I have classic block text. It's so
yeah,
great. So
yeah.
that's awesome. We have viewers, by the way, so I want to say hello to King
Hi.
Eric the Greatest and Todd. Todd, I've never actually pronounced your name. Is it Lions or Leons? You can text that out in the box. And when you were talking about being in engineering, Eric pointed out that you were a brainiac, so that was fine. Which is because what was one of your summer jobs that you had? Where were you
Oh
working?
yeah. So before I started teaching, back when I was like in college, I had a summer job at NASA. So I was working on computational fluid dynamics for a supersonic jet inlet. Um,
Just what someone does during the summer, right? It's totally typical.
so yeah, it was mostly like at a computer, like modeling it and things like that. But I also got to tour the facility and like see all the wind tunnels and stuff like that that they use. It was cool.
That's awesome.
So
Did you get to like sit in a spacecraft?
not in a spacecraft, but I did get to stand up in a wind tunnel that was like a couple stories tall for where they
Is that
test.
like just
Like,
bizarre? Like, do you
yeah,
feel like
it's
dwarfed?
yeah, it's a different experience standing inside of like one of the wind tunnels that big, and then they have some that are so small, so that way they
Okay.
can get like the big difference and like
Because
get
you want
the
to see the
really
fluid
high.
dynamics of the yeah of
Yeah,
the way
yeah,
that the air is moving. That's kind
yeah.
of cool.
It's cool.
If you were in the like the two-story tall one, you should have grabbed like a battle axe and gone run through.
Yeah.
Like I'm in Casa and just gone running down the hall. And probably because it was NASA, someone would have actually understood that.
Oh yeah.
Which
Oh, they were all nerds. It was amazing. Like
and
I
we
loved
gotta
it.
want to say hello to Justin. Justin, thank you for streaming in, tuning. You're not really tuning in. Surfing in sounds weird. We'll just say streaming in, and that's fine. But thank you, everybody. You're Eric just pointed out that you're the next captain of the Enterprise, which would be
Oh,
that would actually
please.
pretty
I am a
cool.
huge Star Trek nerd,
I want to
so
be in the center. Okay, what did you think of Brave New Worlds?
okay. Brave New Worlds.
There's a right answer and
So,
a wrong answer, so I just want to.
um, hmm. I gotta think how to
How do I be
how do
politically
I
astute?
yeah. So Brave New Worlds.
Wow, this was not on the
That's a good
pre
thing.
warm up
I
the
know, I
of the
know. You
show. I'm
didn't prep
sorry,
me for this.
I didn't.
Um, so are you talking about the this is the
Paramount
book?
Plus the Pike show
Oh,
on
Pike.
Paramount.
Okay, that one.
Yeah.
I actually have not gotten to Brave New Worlds yet. We are working on the Orville.
Okay. Well, the Orville's
We're gonna go to
fantastic. So
yeah. We
yeah.
I think like the Orville is kind of more Star Trek than Star Trek right now.
Okay. Well,
We haven't
yeah.
started
The
Brave New Worlds because we have it where we like we want to binge it.
yeah yeah. Oh yeah yeah.
So
You
we
need to
sort of
binge it.
like binge a series at a time. And Brave New
Yeah.
Worlds, I think, is two down on our list. We've
Okay.
got we're doing the Orville, and then we have an anime out there
Well, anime's
that we
fine.
want to do.
No, but well, the Orville's probably the best Trek that's on television right now.
Yeah,
I mean, and the last
yeah,
season was phenomenal.
yeah, yeah. We're like
But
partway through it, and I'm like, I want to
so
watch the rest of it so
I had
badly.
no interest in Brave New Worlds
Hmm.
because it was a prequel, and I'm so over prequels, and Discovery did not do a whole lot for that for me. Although I did like season 3 of Discovery, and then that was the
Yeah,
high point.
season
It's
two
just
is
kind
pretty
of
good.
it, they need to get rid of the one plot, but eventually we're going to talk about TTRPG Kids.
Yeah, yeah,
But Brave New Worlds brought back like classic Trek. It was
yeah.
there were threads, so there was modern things in that wove through the whole season, but there was like little things like hope, which
Hmm.
doesn't happen in Discovery for some reason. Like
Yeah,
it's like let's bring that back, and so that was
yeah,
really I was like, yay, it's so cool.
yeah.
Whereas Discovery, I don't even know the names of all the bridge crew yet, which just seems weird to me in an ensemble show, but that's okay. And
Mhm.
now, like, is anybody going to scream about that? Go ahead. Mirror Universe Steph knows all about Brave New Worlds. Yes, New Mirror
Yeah,
Universe Steph does know all about Brave New Worlds, but she
yeah.
doesn't have a goatee, so it's okay.
No.
Um,
Sideburns or
how
something.
nerdy can we be? That's just going to be
Yeah,
the theme of tonight.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. It goes
so
deep. It goes
moving
pretty
away
deep.
from Star Trek, we won't talk about the Star Wars sequel trilogy. Um, but the so you go through running D&D. Have you run anything else besides D&D as a big campaign, or has it been pretty much 5e? Like, what else have you run?
So I've done some D&D campaigns. Um, I've also done some one shots. There's been a few with like my friend groups and stuff. But
Okay.
then with my kid, for the past 2 years, I've been running a different system or game with him about every other week.
It's one way to
So
keep
that
their
way I could
attention.
review for the site. And so it's been like 50, it's been over 50 games
I think you
that
may
I've
have
played.
run more games with him than most GMs run in their entire lifetime
Yeah.
as a GM.
Yeah.
That's
It's
really
been
cool.
it's been quite a few. A lot of they're rules light systems because my kid's less than 5 years old. So like
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to overload him. A lot of it's, D6 pool or like I'll help him out with the dice and stuff like that.
Right.
Um, so it's at a level like, he's comfortable with switching between different systems and things like that. Um, and it's like they're ones that are easy to pick up, but there's like such variety in the stories and like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
weird different mechanics sometimes. And it's a lot of fun like learning all of them. So
Yeah.
we've established that I'm a nerd. I like research. It's kind
Mm-hmm.
of like uh seeing all the different mechanics and like how each one plays out. It's like a little bit of a research project for me.
Oh yeah.
Um and it's interesting. It's interesting like seeing how all of them are, how many variations you can get from like a D6 and stuff like that. So
It really is because it's a D6. It's the same thing. No, it's
yeah,
not. How
so
like
many
have
different
you
things.
gotten to the point where because you're a GM and you're reading a whole bunch of systems, have you gotten to the point where you're pulling on stuff from other systems, or just because you're trying to give your kid a fair shake at learning this one game and you're trying to write a review of that game, are you trying to keep it rules as written as much as possible as you move through these?
I do try and keep it rules as written as much as I can. If I do make any modifications to it and I write a review on it, I do note the modifications. So
Okay.
like there was one that was like a zombie game and I didn't want to like scare my kid too much. So we sort of like rewrote the zombies a little bit,
Okay.
where the zombies were eating garbage. Um, and so they were basically
What?
just creepy raccoons. Um, and so like we rewrote it a little bit, but then kept true to the mechanics. Um, so we still like tested the game out and it worked fine. It was just, we tweaked a few things so that way it was okay for, little kids.
Little kid fun. Like
Yeah.
we're gonna talk a little bit about your game designing a little bit down the
Yeah.
line in the conversation, but can you please design a game with zombie raccoons eating garbage, like just
Oh
from the
yeah.
ground up,
I need to
please?
now, I
Because
think. Yeah.
that would be great. My one friend was sharing the one where you're a raccoon garbage pirate who's
Hmm.
trying to invade the suburbs. Like that would be right along that genre.
Oh yeah,
Just
yeah.
like
Yeah, yeah.
please, the world needs zombie raccoons eating
Yeah.
garbage. It would just be a cool thing.
Yeah.
So TTRPG Kids, we've already talked about you establishing and playing all these systems just to have fun with your kid, but also for reviews and the website. How did this website come about? Because this is kind of a
Mhm.
cool story I think people need to hear.
Yeah. So it was during the whole COVID shutdown situation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my husband and I were both engineers, working like pretty hefty jobs, and then had a 2-year-old at home
Mm-hmm.
who didn't want to nap in the evenings. Something had to give.
Uh-huh.
Uh, And so I ended up quitting my day job as an engineer, and doing like the stay-at-home parent bit. And after a while, I was like, and when I say a while, I'm talking like a week or two. I got kind of crazy, and I'm like, we need to do something. So
Mm-hmm.
I saw a bunch of people had been playing tabletop RPGs with their kids. I'm like, oh, this would be really cool to try out. My kid's only 2, but I can start with like some story games and things like that. And I sort of went down the rabbit hole with that, and I started finding pockets of information and advice over here, and people asking questions over here, and getting answers that answered a question, but not the question that they were asking. And then people over here who got no answers. And it
Mm-hmm.
was like there was no one central place to find the information.
Okay.
And all of the advice was wildly different, and people were debating on it, and it was just this discourse, but it was all spread out into all these different areas. So I collected that and organized it for myself, and then I was like, a couple people had mentioned, maybe this would be like really cool if there was like a repository for this. And I was like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think that'd be fun. And so I started like putting it into the blog, and I'm like, I want this to be like kind of a one-stop shop. Any of the information I find, I can put it in here. This will be like really helpful tool for people. And it kind of just grew and grew and grew. And I'm doing game reviews so that way people
Mm-hmm.
can find information about games from the perspective of playing it with a kid. Because a lot of sites and blogs, it's maybe an adult writing from their perspective about what they think about the game, or they'd say this sounds like it would be a good game for a kid, or I can see
Okay.
how this would apply to a kid. Whereas my goal is to play the game with my kid and then review from that standpoint, that actual play. um,
So you're talking
so
about that experience as you're doing the review.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And then, I'm doing interviews with creators and people who are doing like charity projects in the TTRPG space with kids, um, people who are running classes, and trying to like give voice to some of those experiences too, where
Uh
they
huh.
give like a little bit of a forum to like add their voice to the blog. And I do tips and tricks to help with, anything I've learned. Um, there is like one of my recent articles was about what to do when your kids want to play the villain. So
Oh yeah.
that's a bit of a challenge sometimes, and there's like some crafts and stuff on there. So it's kind of
Sorry, I'm listening to him screaming in the background. What to
yes,
do when our
like
children want to play
oh
the villain? Because that
yeah.
never happens, right? Not in real life. Never.
For
Right.
context, for anyone hearing my kid in the background, he right before this, he kind of had a little bit of a meltdown about not getting an extra book before bedtime. So he's we're my husband's taking him through the bedtime routine right now.
Oh, 2 weeks ago, I had 3 days of
Yeah,
full on 45-minute meltdowns. And I'm like,
yeah, it
yeah, it's not
happens.
fun. Yeah, I mean, it's part of life. So, like, but now
Yeah,
you can role play it. How
I
did
know.
you discover that? Like, what did you learn from that process of what happens when your kid wants to play the villain? And tell
Okay,
tell the
so
story, please. It's such a cool
yeah,
story.
yeah. So probably the best way to talk about it is through the example of the story. Um, So my one of the games that we did, my kid's character was on a quest to find a magic scroll that would let him cast a spell to stop a volcano from erupting
Uh
and
huh.
destroying the island. So it's like gonna summon a bunch of ice and like ice the volcano over.
Right.
Goes through the whole quest, gets the scroll, gets to the top of the volcano, looks into it and says, I throw the scroll in. And I'm like, well, you got to read the scroll in order to do the spell. He's like, I don't want to read the scroll. I want the volcano to explode. And I'm like, okay. Um,
Was
do
he
you,
denied an extra book that day?
no. Like, he was just very like, very nonchalant about it. He just wanted to see the volcano explode. So I'm like, okay. So what we did is we walked through a process where I'm like, what happens if we do this? He's like, well, the volcano explode. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
what happens to your wizard? He kind of thought about it for a minute. He's like, he's going to explode with the volcano too. I'm like, yes, he is. What's going to happen to the island? It's going to get destroyed. Does this hurt anybody? Well, it hurts my wizard and it hurts the island. And I'm like, okay. So, that in mind, what do we want to do? And he said, I still want to make the volcano explode. And I'm like, okay. So I let him do it. he threw the scroll into the volcano.
Uh huh.
It exploded, this big
Right. Yeah.
glorious explosion. And then he said, "Okay, I want my wizard to go get back in the boat." And I'm like, "But your wizard exploded." And he went, "Hmm, okay." I'm like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Yeah. Can we do lunch now?" And I'm like, "Okay." But then the fun thing with this now is the next game that we played. I put in a situation where he had the option to set off some fireworks,
Uh huh.
potentially inside of a building.
Oh.
And he's looking at him and he's like, "I want to set the fireworks off." I'm like, "Okay, so what happens if we set the fireworks off?" He goes, "They're going to explode." And I'm like, "And what happens to your wizard?" "He's going to explode." And I'm like, "Yep. And what happens to the building?" "It'll explode." And I'm like, "Okay, what do we want to do?" "I think we should take the fireworks outside the building."
So
And I'm like,
yeah, I mean,
"Good."
you're teaching
So
that
he learned.
actions have consequences, right? I think
Right.
that's great.
And that's one of the things when like a kid wants to play the villain
Right.
is you instead of saying no,
Uh huh.
I don't tell him no. I walk him through, here's what is going to happen as a consequence of it. So we're at least looking at that. And this
Mm-hmm.
can be, the wizard exploding because of the volcano, or it could be maybe there's people inside the castle or the building, and the fireworks could hurt them, or
Right.
maybe this action could hurt another character's feelings. So we ask about that, so we're aware of it going in, and it helps him to evaluate things before making an action now, like in
Mm-hmm.
real life too, like he's applying it.
But that's really the
So
interesting thing because our
yeah,
culture has pretty much no avenues to learn that actions have consequences in pretty much zero, like there's just no overall danger to it. And
yeah,
you do that in a game and all of a sudden like, wait a
yeah,
minute, wait, things happen when you do things.
right,
That's
yeah,
really cool. And also,
yeah,
Mage's Musings jumped in and say, "Can you say pyroclastic blast? I knew you could."
yeah,
So
yeah,
yes, he's now vapor. Um,
yeah,
because how hot is that? It's not very. It's not.
yeah.
It's not
I was
cool. Uh,
no, no,
it's like basically plasma rushing down at you, but that's okay.
right, yeah,
But I think that's really neat that you went through and did that. And we were talking a little bit because that would not be my inclination.
hmm,
Especially, I mean, for folks that don't know, like my inclination is to be is a pastor. So my inclination is, no, we're not doing the evil because that's good. But like to learn that in a like no stress environment, and be like, wait a minute, I need to rethink that. Like that's
hmm,
actually got me rethinking what I want to do when I start playing games of my little one, which would be kind of fun. So that was, I mean, it was a neat lesson for me to learn. So thank you so much
yeah,
for doing it. Um, I want to talk a little bit about your game design stuff, but
hmm,
I don't want to get into it really quick. So I don't want to jump into it, but I want to talk about because the way you were describing the way you design games, you've done research into educational theory for little ones. Is that was that done before you started doing this, or did you do that when you started TTRPG Kids?
So I started TTRPG Kids first, but during the whole research process for
Okay.
getting all of the information together for like the initial TTRPG Kids launch and like starting to talk with more people about it, I started like seeing the ways that you could apply like educational concepts to tabletop RPGs. And I had come out with, there was one game that I had designed it for my kid. It's a
Okay.
story game. There's no dice mechanics. It's like a pick and choose. So as you're going,
Okay.
it's like almost like a choose your own adventure game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's this little dragon who is nervous about learning to fly, and it was to help my kid get over some nerves about some of the stuff we were learning. He was like, "I can't do it. I don't think I can do it." I'm like, "Yeah, we just got to try it. Let's use this game to walk through like some questions in that process, but through this character, so it's a little less stress, and
Mm-hmm.
then we can apply it." So he was about 3 years old then,
Okay.
and so I came out with the game, and then I met a uh, pre-K teacher on Twitter who was like, "Oh, this would be really good to do for a class." And I started looking at, um, or like talking with them about like their curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, do you think we could do a pre-K curriculum with like, here's my social emotional learning curriculum I've got to go through. And I took that and then started applying it to the stories that I was writing for Story Guider. So
Okay.
that ended up becoming like its own research project, like
Okay.
kind of a branch off of TTRPG Kids, looking at social emotional learning applications in tabletop RPGs. And
Okay.
it follows that curriculum. So maybe like one week they're covering um, like recognizing emotions. Another
Okay.
week they're talking about how to get over embarrassment and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the main theme of that story for that week. So
Okay.
yeah,
And I mean, my wife is a elementary school age teacher. Nobody knows how to do this anymore. I mean, we also were talking about Twitter earlier. We know that adults don't know how to do it anymore. So, like, and you love research. Are you going to turn this into a book? Is
I
that
would
an
like
overall
to.
ambition?
So right now it's a digital release. So it's a there's 30 games like in a bundle.
Okay.
That's the full curriculum. It's on my itch.io page. Um,
Okay. Can you
you
get
can
it
get
to
like
through TTRPG
yeah, you
Kids?
can get the
Okay.
digital only there. I would
Okay.
like to put it in like a physical book at some point, but I'm still like I've been getting swamped with things on the blog, so I haven't had time to run a Kickstarter yet. It's been like two
Gotcha.
years, and I've got like four projects I want to put on like a crowd fund or something.
Oh, that'd be so
I
cool.
just got to get time.
I mean,
The
I
story
like
is
if you
one.
want a prosumer and semi-amateur person to help design the layout, I'd be more than happy to help that because it's just
That
so
would be
cool
awesome.
and so valuable to teach these kinds of lessons, which would be really cool. How much is the 30 game bundle right now?
um, I think I've got it set for. I don't want to misspeak.
So beforehand, like Steph was saying that she doesn't talk about any of her own games.
I
This is
know. I
proof. She
always
doesn't know the
forget.
price of it when I ask,
I
which is great.
forget. Like, I also have like a ton of games on there. So the 30 game pack is $40. So it's
Okay,
like a buck 25 per
that's pretty good.
dish, or like
And
130.
they're all story games at this point. There's no dice
Yep.
mechanics in it, or do they progress as you go through?
They're all story games, but they do have
Okay,
a progression. So,
okay,
because like it's for pre-K kids and they grow pretty quickly.
yep,
So if you start with the first one, that one's like uh lots of basics. Um, and as you go further and further and further, by the time you get to the end, there's like supplemental worksheets and coloring pages and stuff. They kind
uh
of
huh,
turn more from like coloring pages into like there's matching games and like things about how to remember stuff.
okay,
You're like remembering spells and stuff. So it progresses along, gets
neat.
like slightly more complicated as it goes.
And have you had any teachers that actually used it that you know of?
Yeah.
Okay, what was their
The
experience
teacher
with
that I
it?
was talking about in the beginning,
Yeah, yeah,
has used it with their class and
sweet.
makes me like really happy.
How many kids does he do it with? Is it like how
They
big is
have
the
it.
class?
I'm not sure how big their class is.
Okay,
Um, I think most pre-Ks have maybe like I, I know my kids. It ranges from like 10 to 20 depending on the day. So
20. Oh wow. Like I can't imagine doing a
yeah, it's
story with
designed to so
20.
like that class that I do at the college kids where they have a class engineer
Uh huh.
to represent the whole class. It's kind of a similar sort of situation. There's one character that represents the whole class, and then
Okay.
the kids can take turns with like, picking things, or they can choose as a group and stuff. So
I really need to look at this. I think that's so
yeah,
cool. So, have you done any other game design with dice mechanics? Are you still just working on the story stuff, or what's some of the other things
uh,
that you've worked on?
I've got. Whew, I have a few. Me. So I've got a few that I did for um, game jams. So there's Energy Odes, which is like a scout camp kind of
Okay.
situation. Baker's Charge, which is Great British Baking Show, the tabletop RPG. Um, and
Is that
then
on your download
yeah,
itch.io? Yes, thank
yeah, that
you.
one's on there
Okay.
too.
Okay.
And then I've got Critter Mech Squad and Solar Mech Squad, which are
Okay.
both on the Caltrop core system. Critter
What's
Mech
that?
Squad.
What's the
Uh,
Caltrap core?
that one is a D4
Caltrop. Okay, makes
system.
sense. Uh huh.
So like they use a 1D or a D4 for like all the dice rolls.
Okay. It's
Critter
very
Mech Squad
painful
is
to
like,
walk on.
yes,
Yeah.
don't drop them
Okay.
on the floor.
Don't drop.
One of them is like it's basically like Octonauts.
Oh,
Um,
really?
show, and then the other one is like a solar punk kind of like you take your mechs and like fly to another planet and try and like clean it up and stuff.
Okay.
Um, and
Everybody
I've
go
got
to Steph's site and buy some of these cool games, especially if you have kids. It's very
yeah,
important.
they're all
So
for kids and stuff. So
that's so
and
cool.
I got
And
some that don't
did
use
that all
them.
start pandemic, or were you doing that beforehand? It
That's
literally
all
all
been in the
just came
past
from.
couple of years. Yeah,
I mean, this channel's from the pandemic, so I mean, it
yeah.
seems to have had that
I
impact
think
on
it
a lot of
sparked a
people.
lot. I think it sparked
Mm-hmm.
a lot of like creativity and starting up new projects and things like that.
Uh
And
huh.
I'm glad to see like a lot of them continuing through. Um, this brought me a lot of joy. So
I didn't get back into it
uh,
because I knew
keep
I would
going.
just do the deep dive when I started. That's
Yeah.
why. I have a question from the chat for you. Look at this. Thanks, Eric. Or I should say, King Eric, the greatest of all, is the YouTube name, which I always thought was funny. But he wants to know: has there been any pushback from parents about this? And the reason why he asks it is because he has a friend. Who, well, let me read it in his voice. The reason I ask is because I have a friend whose mom won't let them play D&D because it's evil, as the pastor talks in his office. But she lets them watch LOTR, which is very weird.
Mhm.
Have you had pushback from parents? Like they hear a role playing game, and they're is that still a thing where you are, or are you pretty much cool?
I haven't heard too much of it. When I there the bigger pushback that I've gotten is people trying to say that kids aren't ready to play tabletop RPGs.
Okay.
Um, that they think that kids under the age of 8 can't separate fiction and reality.
No,
And
they live there.
yeah, and like
Yeah.
a couple people saying like, "Oh, you shouldn't be running a session 0 with a kid under the age of 8 because they don't know what they're saying and like they're just going to abuse it and all this other stuff." That's more the pushback that I've gotten versus people saying it's evil, which I've dealt with those comments. I've you know, handled it. But uh with the pushback from parents because they think that it's like evil or going to corrupt. Um, one really good resource is Daddy Rolled a One blog.
Oh, I should
Has
be
a
wearing his
guide.
shirt tonight, but yeah,
Oh, nice,
yeah,
nice.
I should be. I'm
He's
not. I'm wearing a Star Wars shirt, but that's okay.
Hey,
So,
it counts. Yeah, he posts pictures of himself in Star Wars shirts all the
mm-hmm.
time. So, um, he has a really good guide on there about how he talked to the parents of the girls in the like his
And his
daughter's
they're middle
group.
school age, right? That they
Yes,
play. Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
and introduce them to what D&D and tabletop RPGs are, so that way they could understand it. And that's like a he's got a really good system for doing that, like how to explain it, what to compare it to, and basically how to do the pitch to the parents.
Yeah, I
um,
should. I'll go dig it up and put it in the link to the description
yeah,
because it's really really good. And one of the dads ended up playing with the group, right?
yes,
For
yeah,
that,
joined in.
he heard
And
the pitch. It's like, oh, I'll do that.
that's
Yeah.
one of the things that you could do is like kind of pull the parents in, because once they play, maybe they like see that it's actually okay. They feel like
Mm-hmm.
they've got
Mm-hmm.
that supervision. Another option is if they've got a hang up about D&D but not tabletop RPGs, you could try a different tabletop RPG. Um, there's some fun ones out there. Like if you're playing with younger kids, especially, I think Magical Kitty Save the Day is a riot. Like
I
it's a
can't do
lot of
anything
fun.
where cats are the heroes, but that's okay. I just
Not a cat person.
no.
I think
That's
there's a
fine.
dog one. There's a dog one
I'll get
I've
over it.
heard
It's
about
good.
there.
And
Yeah.
Hero Kids is a really good
Hero Kids
game.
is a good one too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That one's designed specifically for kids. And that one's really cool because it's adjustable. Like you can play there's adventures for really young kids and then more
Mm-hmm.
advanced
Mm-hmm.
ones for older kids.
And the
Um
artwork, like the knight's wearing like a pot on his
yeah,
head.
yeah.
Like this isn't evil. He's wearing a pot on his head. Come on.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
there's that might be a route to take too, is to kind of, to get around it. And then it's like, oh, well, you just played a bunch of tabletop RPGs. You know, these other games, they're basically the same thing.
right.
Um, or finding like an event, like a D&D adventure that specifically is made for kids and saying,
Mm-hmm.
look,
Mm-hmm.
this was made for kids under the age of 8. Like the
There you go.
grandmother tree is a really popular one
Mm-hmm.
for playing with young kids. And it's designed to be like you fight sentient cookies and there's a library dragon at the top of the tree and like little traps and stuff to like get through. So it's a really good introductory adventure. And that's, another way to do it. Be like, you're fighting cookies. It's, you know,
Yeah, I think
so
it's just cookies. Whereas my thing would be like, fine, we're not going to play D&D. We're going to play basic fantasy RPG. It's
right.
free. It's not
Yeah.
D&D at all. See, it doesn't say it in the name
Yeah.
anywhere, which is
Yeah.
basically Moldvay Basic mixed with advanced D&D. But you don't need to know that right now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and then we had some other folks. Someone was pointing out that kids on bikes is not
Hmm.
D&D, but it's a much story game. And yeah, Mage's Musing, it is for the Stranger Things generation. Um, and Kids on Bikes is one of those games that I'm sorry, I'm usurping your thing, but somebody has to
Yeah.
correct me.
You're fine. You're fine.
It's one of those games where I really should like, and I can't get my brain around it, so I actually need to watch it play. But I'm thinking from your perspective, Steph, have you read Kids on Bikes yet, or any other?
I haven't done kids on bikes yet because it is more for like a little bit older kids and like I'm kind of
It's a
like my
little bit
kids
more
4 right
dangerous.
now, so
I
it's kind
know.
of yeah.
But when you get there's like the 11 character is actually run cooperatively by the group,
Oh, that's
which I think
cool.
to play with
Yeah.
like a 10-year-old group would be really, really
Yeah,
helpful.
that'd be
Like
sweet.
you
Yeah.
have to share. Whereas when I
Yeah.
was reading, I'm like, I don't want to share my toy.
Yeah.
It's the adult doesn't want to share. But I think that would be really cool. There's a little My Little Pony RPG,
Hmm.
and
I've heard of
Cookie
that one.
Monster is the evil overlord. Can we do a live play of this, Steph?
That would be
Would you
awesome.
GM that at some point? That
Oh
would be a
yeah,
lot
I'd
of
be
fun.
up for that. Yeah.
We'll just do a theater of the mind and that like this.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
would be awesome, Eric. And there was a discussion early on because you've done story based games. Did you have experience with choose your own adventures growing up? Did you do the straight choose your own adventures? Did you do the D&D ones, like the one with the water weird on the cover, or the Lone Wolf
I've
books?
I had done like a few choose your own adventure books, but not many. So like I
Okay.
was aware that they existed. And we had a couple for my kid that were like people had gifted them to us when he was young and they were like, when he gets older we'll do them.
Okay.
And we ended up reading to him anyway because they were like choose your own adventure books, but for younger kids it was like a build your own robot
Oh,
kind
neat.
of thing.
Okay. Oh,
Like make
cool.
decisions about what to put on the robot and then it changes the story. Um, so I was aware of them.
Okay.
Um, and like I had done a couple before, but it wasn't like I had done maybe like two or three. So
Yeah,
it
I'm
was a
not. I
little
won't
bit
ask your age.
new.
What era did
Yeah.
you grow up in? Like, what decade was your
I am an
decade?
early 90s kid.
Okay.
So yeah,
See,
like really
I'm an
early
'80s.
90s.
I'm an '80s
But,
Gen Xer. Like, choose your own adventure was like
yeah.
all we had, right?
Yeah.
So I've been through the cave of time more times than I can think. But that's like the change. But so were those gifts to your kid? Was that kind of the impetus to do the story games, or was it your own experience with those few choose your own adventures you'd done, or a little bit of both?
It was a little bit of both.
Okay.
I was kind of it was also based on like some research that I had done about playing tabletop RPGs with really young kids. I had also talked with Redworm. Um, so he's popular on Twitter for like his kid is a really young
GM.
D&D GM. And so I talked with him about how he started out and he had done it with like story games where he was kind of like, oh, here's the character. What do you think they do? And
Okay.
then after that, like slowly started introducing the dice and like little bits and pieces of the mechanics in order to build up to do the whole game eventually.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so I was like, oh, you could do like stories and then, ask the questions. And my kid was having a hard time choosing. So I was like, well, if I give him two options, it's easier for him to pick from. And so then that started
Right.
becoming like that choose your own adventure map.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
red worm. For those who don't know, but red wormling is the way that the child is
Hmm.
described on Twitter. We'll come up with like stat blocks for like pirate zombie chickens,
Yeah.
and like they're gonna be in a pirate ship, and then they're all gonna go out for hamburgers. It's just like, then he's the GM, so he gets to do
Mhm.
whatever he wants. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, so of all the games that you reviewed that are not your own, what
Mm-hmm.
was kind of your favorite one that you've played with your kid?
Oh, this is tough. Um,
I'll
we
let you do three. How about your
yeah.
top
Okay,
three?
three. We really liked Color My Quest, and we
Okay.
really liked Star Sworn, and
Is that Starsworn like Ironsworn?
it is so Star Sworn is on the Stories RPG system,
Okay.
and it is it's like a coloring and adventure like
Oh, cool.
prompt kind of game. It's really
Okay.
cool.
All right. I'll look that up.
The latest one that just came out, so Starsworn was like the first set, and now there's Giga City Guardians, which is the superhero version of it. It's really cool.
Oh, cool.
Um, oh, my third one. You can make me pick. We also really like the family fantasy games. I'll say.
I don't
So
know
it's
that. Who puts those out?
Family Fantasy RPG is the like overall name, and
Okay.
they've got Dino Riders and Fairies of the Mistglade.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And so they got like worksheets and stuff that go with it. Where there's like a ABC maze or something like that,
Okay.
and like coloring pages and like they're fun. You get to fill in the maps on your own and stuff. It's cool.
Oh, that's awesome. I'll look. I'll have to look those up.
Yeah,
I'll try to remember to go down and put the links in the
yeah.
description, which would be really fun. And also Mage's Musings. They said they had a 9-year-old at a OSE game, injected fun
Mhm.
energy, but all the adults failed their willpower checks to stop using colorful language. When you're
Yeah,
playing with kids, you do need to worry about the colorful language. It is one
yeah,
of those things. What is the color? How did Spock put it in Star Trek 4? Colorful metaphors. Would this be the time for
yes,
colorful metaphor? When you have a
yep,
9-year-old at the table, probably not.
yeah,
I mean, they're probably using the language already, but just don't encourage it. It's okay,
yeah, yeah,
uh, which is good. So we've been going for 40 minutes. I wanted to talk about because you have some big events coming up.
yeah.
Talk about the opportunities that have kind of popped up for you, which is like I didn't know this when you were coming on. I'm like, whoa, this is like someone who's like a big deal is showing up on my rinky dink little channel. What are you doing pretty soon?
I'm a bit like floored and kind of nervous about these. So I'm gonna be at South by Southwest in early March
Okay,
doing a
repeat that just so
yeah,
everybody.
yeah. I'm like still like in shock about it. So I'm gonna be at South by Southwest doing a workshop on educational tabletop RPGs and also a panel along with there's Chris Hopper, Marianne Cullinan, and Michael Lowe.
Uh
So
huh.
they're all kind of like in the TTRPG community. Michael Lowe actually published that Starsworn game. So
Okay. Okay.
we're going to be doing the workshops and panels together. And then in late March, I am sponsoring a designated kid friendly channel for virtual GaryCon. So any of the kid friendly games go on there. We're going to have some panels I'm submitting soon. Um, and it's only like $5 to attend the virtual GaryCon.
That's
And you can play
awesome.
any number of games that you want. So I'm like kind of hoping to get like, you know, people in there trying out games and stuff like that, and just kind of having a fun time and hanging out. So
That's really really cool. So when is South by this year?
uh, the one that I'm going to is the teachers one. So they
Okay.
put it over spring break because that's when all the teachers are able to go.
Oh,
So
nice.
that is going to be
March or April?
it is March. So like March 5th through 11th, I think it
Okay.
is, and then I'll be there. I think the 7th, 8th, and 9th is my plan.
Awesome.
So yeah, and
And
the
then GaryCon is in March too, right?
yeah, GaryCon is March 23rd through 26th.
That's really
So
cool.
and the virtual like aspect of it is really cool because there's a lot of creators who can't travel because it's expensive. You can't always get a booth and things like that.
And
And
it's
so
also
it's
in
like
the middle of nowhere
yeah,
in
like Geneva,
Wisconsin. So yeah,
Wisconsin. So
it's not easy to get to. Right.
right, like I'm in Michigan and like it's right there, but you gotta go like around the lake and everything like that, and
You
it's a
don't want to
hefty
like
drive.
parasurf over the
Yeah,
Great Lake either side
yeah.
in March.
So
That would be fun.
and like if you're from England, you can call into Virtual GaryCon still.
That's so cool.
So it's a good way to get like the whole community together, regardless of where everyone's at.
How many sessions will you run during GaryCon?
So I've got 2 sessions for Story Guider on there, and I'm going to be submitting a couple more. I want to do the adventure workbooks that I'm coming out with soon,
Okay.
and there's another system that I've got called Glyphy, which is instead of rolling dice, you pull tokens out of a cup for your randomization. So it's like a randomization building game, like you swap your tokens in and out as you play,
Oh, cool.
to like change your probability of getting different types of
Mm-hmm.
powers.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to run that one because I got it up on virtual tabletop now. So I'm going to be submitting those ones. And there's a
What
workshop that I
VTT are you running
submitted.
that on?
Huh?
What VTT is Glyphy on?
So I've got it on tabletop simulator.
Oh, really?
You
Okay.
can actually get like a cup and then have the
And
physical
yeah.
tokens and like copy and paste them in there, and then you like shake the cup and can pull one out. So it's kind of a fun
Oh,
kind
that's
of thing.
cool.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be submitting those ones. So I've got 2 right now up there. I'm submitting another 2 to 4, and then there's a few other creators in the tabletop RPGs for kids
Uh huh. Uh huh.
space that's submitting their projects. So there should be quite a few games going. We got like some panels and stuff on
Oh,
educational tabletop RPGs, playing D&D with kids,
uh huh.
and like a few others. So it'll have quite a bit going on. So it'll be
Oh,
fun to check
that's
out.
really
Yeah.
cool. I'm so happy for you. And TTRPG Kids has been going on for how long now?
We're coming up on, let me think, 2 years.
Yeah, you said 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years. Two
Okay.
years.
You don't
I
like to
was like for
talk.
a second.
You really
I'm
don't
like,
like to talk about
time.
your own accomplishments, which is
No,
really kind of funny.
I forget.
It's
Ask
like,
me like could be a fun game. If somebody from the chat's like, "Oh, give me a game for a kid this age about this topic," I can just tell it to you. But like, if you try and get me to remember something about my own work,
oh my god. Well, actually, I want to try that.
yeah,
Okay,
it's
Pete's
definitely
from the
time.
chat. You've been issued a challenge. Ask for a game for a
Yeah,
kid on a topic
yeah,
of a particular under 10. Shall we say under
yeah,
10? Okay, under
yeah.
10.
Understand probably good.
If we do have 5 listeners or 5 viewers right now, so maybe someone's going to do that. We'll see if
I will do
anybody
my
asks.
best. I will do my best. So I have a list of like this 300 and let me see how many games are on this list now.
How many of you?
300, 350 or something games on this list. I haven't reviewed all of them, but I've reviewed maybe like, right, I have articles on like 100 of them.
That's so cool.
But I
Because
did
really,
like
I
at
mean,
least some research on all of them just to kind of get an idea of what they are before putting them on there. So
that's really impressive. It's really really cool. I'm not having anybody take a bite on that.
no,
I think Mage
got
just put,
nervous.
yeah, I'm a child. Mage about the swearing with the kids. The Mage said, yeah, a childless 50-year-old, so don't usually watch my language. My niece is almost 30, so she swears as much as me.
Yep.
So, ay, 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 which is good. Well, this has been awesome, and thank you so much.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thanks
here,
for having
wait,
me
I
on.
do have actually, this is one
Yeah.
of my players who is now actually my GM for a Dungeon World game, which is my first Powered by the Apocalypse game that I played. And
Mhm.
he says, a 7-year-old who loves sloths and ironically Sonic the Hedgehog.
Okay.
Give me a
So
game.
we
That's
want
pretty
some
good,
with
Calvin.
animals. Yeah, that's a good one. Okay. I'm gonna go through real quick.
Mage, you got nothing. You run a puppet channel. Give me something.
I would say Bard RPG could facilitate that pretty
Bard
well.
RPG. Okay.
Yeah, it's coming out soon.
All right.
Um, the let me think. Um, Sodalitas is another one that you can do that with.
Which one's that?
My character made a tiger that shoots fire in that one, so I'm pretty sure you can make a super fast hedgehog
Sloth.
and
No, we want a super fast sloth because that
yeah.
would definitely be a
Oh
superpower.
yeah, super
Yeah.
powered sloth.
Yeah.
Yeah, with super powered. Yeah, super fast. That would definitely work.
But moves in slow
So
motion.
yeah,
So,
so Sodalitas, Bard RPG, and let me give you a third one.
oh my gosh, you're going 3. Get on it, Calvin. I want
Animon
reviews for my
Story.
channel.
So
What
I'm
is
gonna say
that?
Animon Story, but might be another one. It's a Pokemon-ish kind of vibe game, or like a Digimon vibe kind of game. So I'm pretty sure you could find a way to have a companion who's a fast sloth. Like your
Mm,
character is the kid, and then they've got the fast sloth as their buddy.
I love
Well,
that.
those will be
What's
my three.
it has to? And we want fast sloths now. Also, zombie raccoons eating garbage.
And zombie
For,
rage.
all right,
Yes.
Mage did come up. Thank you, Mage. You really are good. Something paced and math based, which this might be a
Okay.
little hard because you've done mostly story. With cute imagery for 6 and 7 year olds.
Okay. So for that one, math based, fast paced, and cute imagery.
And
Okay.
Calvin loves the Pokemon idea.
Yeah.
Calvin, I want you running that session next for me.
Okay. How crunchy do you want the math?
Well, it's a 6 and 7 year old, so
Yeah,
we're
6 and 7.
not doing long division.
Okay. We want something cute. Teddy RPG. Teddy the
Teddy.
RPG could be
Okay.
cute. That one you play as a teddy bear that is helping a kid.
Aw.
Or so like your character is a teddy bear that helps the kid kind of deal with stuff or like finds lost toys and things like that. That'd probably be a good one.
And there's dice and
Um,
math, and it's look, there you go. I love it.
mhm. If you want to get into some, oh, you get an appearance from my husband. Hey, Alex. I'm moving. That's okay. That's okay.
No, we're
Um,
just saying hello. It's okay.
we're just saying hi. Um, the another one would be Stacks of Goblins. I think so. It's like cute in the shenanigans kind of way.
Okay.
So it's the premise of the game is a whole bunch of goblins stacked on top of each other in a trench coat. And for the math portion of it, you're constantly shuffling around and getting different dice depending on your position in the trench coat. If you're playing the feet, the middle, or the head. Um,
Oh my
so
gosh.
the math mechanics get fun with it because you are like swapping dice all the time. So that's a fun one for having like it's crunch and math, but not like a ton of stats. It's you're
And it's
only having like
goofball.
that one dice or that one mechanic at any given time, but it's
Right.
swapping around as you're shuffling up and down the row. So that would be my second one. And the pictures for it are really cute. They're just
Stacks
like
of goblins. That's what it's
yeah,
called. Oh,
they're
I
just
love
like
it.
cheeky goblins, and they're all like doing silly things. So
Awesome. That's
that'd
so
be a good
great.
one. Color My Quest is another one. So I've already mentioned that one before.
Uh-huh.
But that one, everything is chibi in it.
Okay.
It is a D6 system, and for the math, it is there's like simple addition and things like that, but it's like really intuitive and easy to kind of pick up.
Okay.
Um, and everything is like very chibi, so
Awesome.
very cute, and it's a coloring book too. So
Oh,
that would be the
cool.
third. So three
I
choices.
like it. And yeah, Mage, I don't think we're going to find calculus for 7 year olds, but they do
Yeah.
that in next gen.
Arithmagine.
Um,
There's Michael Lowe's coming out with one called Arithmagine that does deal with math
for
for it's
7 year olds.
algebra, pre-algebra. Yeah, so it's like that age range.
Okay, we're close.
Well, there's
I
one.
didn't think there'd be one. So,
Yeah,
all right, we're gonna cut it. We'll cut it
yeah.
there.
I will get
We're
nerd
just under
snipe
an
and just
hour.
keep answering.
No, I think it's so great. Yeah, people came up with ideas, which is really fun. So thanks everybody in chat and everybody who tuned in to watch. It would be really, really cool. Steph, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I know with stress in the background and it's bedtime, and I totally understand that with my almost 5 year old. But really, it was a great conversation. I'm so glad that you have the opportunities that you have coming up, and I'm looking
Mhm.
forward to checking out some of your games. And Calvin's going to take all of your suggestions and run them for our group on Mondays, so that'll be really good. So
Nice.
he has jobs now. Um, a math. Oh, here's one. Mage just put this out. A friend of mine created a math game called Mathemagician's Duel.
Ooh, I gotta check that one out. I
Yeah,
haven't heard
so
that one.
write that down. Thank you, Mage, for sharing that one. He hasn't played it
Yeah,
yet, but they put it out. It's a duel. It's a math class duel. Put that in
I'm
middle
on my
school.
list right now.
which would be good. See, it's on the list. Thank you.
Yeah.
But really, thanks for chatting. We're gonna come to the end of the stream. But Steph, if you stay on for a little bit just so we can say goodbye off
Yeah,
screen,
yeah.
which would be really good. And thanks everybody, and have a wonderful, wonderful evening. See you later. Wait, bye bye. Wait, I got.